older, dumb, and broke, because financial habits don't change. Good morning, Matt.
Morning, Zane.
Hey, we were talking about what should we talk about, and I've got this concept that I want to bring forth and talk about, and it's really interesting and all encompassing. And I was going to start the show by saying, let's call it young, dumb, and broke. And of course, people go, well, wait a minute, is he talking about me? So young, dumb, and broke just means making poor financial decisions and getting broke, getting into debt. We see this, the statistics on debt every day, where the average credit card holder has $6,000 balance, which is astounding. You think some people have 2 or 3 credit cards. That's $12,000 to $18,000 in debt right there. So young, dumb, and broke means not necessarily dumb in terms of everyday life, but dumb in making financial decisions that put us behind the 8 ball, that put us into some form of debt. But then I thought, okay, wait a minute. It's not just young, because young, dumb, it's middle-aged,
Right.
Dumb and broke, and even to the point of a little bit older, older, dumb, and broke, because financial habits don't change. And I guess I've been, happily immune to this in my life. And I thought, what made the difference, or what kept me from going into debt and making bad decisions? And this idea that we're dumb and broke, gosh, how does it happen? Because people seem to be surprised when they find out, gee, I don't have any money, I owe. And we bought, whether it's, we didn't used to have student loans. Think about it. How many people have student loans these days? They have,
hundreds of thousands.
Hundreds of thousands, yeah.
And the funniest thing about that is if an 18-year-old went into a credit union or some kind of financial institution and said, hey, I got an idea. This is my business plan. I'm going to spend $200,000 over the next 4 years to just read a lot of books and talk to people, and then money at the end. The credit union would look at him and say, get the hell out of here. That's not a business plan at all. No. That's not a way you make money.
Let's see. I'm sorry. Let's even break it down.
Yeah, right.
Let's have a 20-year-old walk into that same credit union and go, listen, I want to start I want to start an excavation company. Right. I'm really good at, digging foundations for houses. I need a loan for a backhoe. Give me $20,000 to borrow a backhoe. And the credit union is going to say, not a chance in the world. But if that same 20-year-old goes to school and the school costs $50,000 a year, we're going to give them student loans for 4 years at $50K. They're going to walk out of there 4 years from now. They're not going to have a backhoe, but they're going to have $200,000 in student debt. Right. So we've got this kind of backwards way of valuing things, and we carry that into our everyday lives. So let's say these people get out of school, graduate from college. What are they told? Well, go find a job. So they, this is an actual case. I'm not going to use any names, but they got out of school, very prominent school, very well educated, got a job, moved to a big city, Denver, Colorado, got an apartment, $1,500 a month apartment, still hasn't made a dime yet, wanted that apartment furnished. They went down a week beforehand and went and bought a couch, went and bought tables, chairs, bed, $5,000 on credit card. Haven't made a dime yet. Okay. But they're out there doing it. They're out there presenting themselves. 6 months later, they realize, I miss my hometown. I hate Denver. Nothing wrong with Denver, but it's just not where they grew up. But they've got a year-long lease. So what do? Mom, Dad, I want to come home. And of course, the parents are like, yeah, we miss you. Come home. So this particular person came home, had $7,000 in credit card debt, still has a car payment, and is paying on the lease on an apartment in Denver. They don't even live there anymore. They move back home. So we get this push, rather than like when we came out of school. First of all, we came out of school with very little student loans because they just weren't available. You know, we worked during the summer. School didn't cost as much as it does now, that kind of thing. We had 3 of us living in a, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom. We furnished it. We went to garage sales on Saturday morning. We're like, hey, I found a couch for $20. Hey, I found a bed for $30. So instead of going into debt, $5,000-$6,000 and getting a 1-bedroom apartment that costs $1,500 a month, we got a 3-bedroom apartment that cost about $1,500, but we put 4 of us in it, or two bedrooms. Anyway, the whole idea of this young, dumb, and broken, and I was talking about my son, and he said, "Dad, that's called delay discounting." And I said, never heard that term. And he said, I've had lots of psychology classes on it. Delay discounting explains it to me, and explains a concept that I think is rampant in our world today. And that is getting the benefit right now today for something that we're going to pay for down the road. Or more so, will you take, let's say I offer you $20, Matt.
Sure.
Would you rather have the $20 right now today, or I would pay you $50 a week from now?
I'd prefer the 50, but I'm
Of
sure
course.
a lot of people would take 20.
Yeah, because you're an investment-minded person, and you're not subject to, or you're not controlled by this delay discounting. Most people would take the $20 today. And what that does is it opens a whole new way of making decisions. So let's say you have a deadline. You've got to get something done by Friday. And it's only Monday. And some people would say, well, you better get it done today. Let's get it done early. But you kick it down the road and say, well, wait a minute. Monday, let's see, it's Monday Night Football. There's something good going on Monday night. Okay, I didn't get it done. So Tuesday, I'll still get it done. It's not due till Friday. Oh, well, Tuesday comes around and some friends want you to play whatever. I don't know. Let's go out and ride bikes, or let's play cards, whatever. I still got 3 days. So what we're doing, we're kicking it down the road. We're getting our happiness today. My brother said it really well this morning. He said, you're accepting misery down the road for what you perceive as happiness today. And that's the essence of delayed discounting. So we in this example, we're going down the road. We've got a deadline on Friday. So Wednesday comes along. We find something to do Wednesday. So we're trading our misery down the road. We're going to have to pay at some point for what we perceive as more valuable today. And we do this across the board in so many aspects of our lives. And that's how we get into this financial difficulty with credit cards. And I'll earn it down the road. I'll make that money down the road, but I want to spend it today. And when I talk with people and we're coaching, we're consulting, we're trying to change this, what I realize that the reason I've been, I don't know, I guess immune to it, maybe I've been lucky, is that I was brought up in a way that taught me to avoid that and really think about what's happening today and what's the value versus what's happening down the line and where's the value going to be there. So we were taught not to spend money that we didn't have. And in doing so, we didn't have that misery coming down the road. We didn't have to kick the can down the road. And so if we bought a car, what were we buying? We were buying a car that we could actually pay for today rather than what's normal today.
Oh, just absolutely get car loan.
Yeah, buy it on credit.
Right.
Let's get, because, and we when we talk about, let's be honest, we're going to buy a car because, wait a minute, I need a car that's dependable. I don't want to buy a used car. I don't want to buy a car that I can actually pay for today because I need a better car. I need a more dependable car. I need a car that looks good when I pull up in front of whatever, my work or the place I work out, whatever. I need to look good. So we've got this idea that it's okay to spend money today because we're going to get some benefit today. We're going to get to drive the car, but we're going to have the pain in the future, the misery coming down the road.
One thing in particular with cars is the opposite of delayed discounting actually is immediate surcharge, right? And people do this with cars. They opt in for an immediate surcharge with a future life that they think they may want to be living. They don't purchase what they need right now. They may think, okay, well, I don't want to get a 2-door because I may want to have a kid in the next 3 years or 4 years. So I need to get a 4-door. And if I'm going to have a kid in the next 3 or 4 years, not only does it need to be a 4-door, but I want to be a little higher off the ground and I got to get something big enough for a car seat. So you have an immediate surcharge to an expense for an expense that you didn't actually need, right? Like, yeah, you need a car, but you don't need this level of car. Whether or not that thing actually comes to pass in 2, 3, or 4 years, whether or not you have a kid, maybe you do, great. But then you were paying more than you needed to for that 4-year period because you didn't want to deal with this thing down the road. And you didn't, again, it's one of those things that people look at their future and they actually pay more for something in the near term just because they think there's a possibility that they may need it in the future at some point.
Right. And so we're looking at what you're bringing up is being risk averse. So we think that we're being safer by spending more money, but we're really, again, in that delay discounting, we're pushing the problem down the road, and we're thinking, okay, I've got this car. I've got what I want. I bought what I want. I will tell ourselves I bought what I need, versus actually truly buying what you do need today or what you can afford today, and not putting ourselves in line to have a problem down the road. So we do this, across the board. We were talking about jobs, and what's right now. I want a job. I need a job. And rather than holding out and finding the job that we really, really want to do or that we have passion for, that kind of thing, we say, well, I have bills, I have living expenses, I'm going to grab a job. And then we tend to hold on to that job. I'll talk to people, 15, 20 years into their career and go, okay, why do you do what you do? Well, I just got started in it early on. And, I made some friends at work. I work with some pretty good people. I make decent money. It's not really what I want to do, but they don't want to make the change. They're happier today than going through some kind of change and moving forward down the road somewhere to a how do you say it, a happier place. Right. Okay. And so we get people that are doing things today. They're not really happy with life, but they don't want to go through the difficulty of change. And we can do this with even little things, where I look at, I look at a step that creaks when I walk into my house. I think I really should fix that step. But it's just kind of a little inconvenience. And I'll get to it, sometime. I'll do it next week. I'll do it next month. I'll fix it, And so our happiness today or our avoidance today is setting us up for a problem down the road. We see this. This is why we have debt. This is why we have credit cards. This is why. And so when we talk about this, we talk about, okay, how do we change this? How do we change these habits? Because we all want to be happy today. We hear all the time.
Sure.
I've got a great life. I'm, living wonderfully today. And it's hard to prove a negative that hasn't happened yet, but to look at it and say, okay, you're happy today. How sustainable is this? How are you going to be 10 years from now? How are you going to be 15, 20 years from now? Well, I don't want to think about it. And the idea of thinking down the road, they realize that's not really what I want to think about. I want to think about today, and I want to be happy today. So I'm willing to spend the money today to buy the car that makes me happy. I'm to buy the clothes that make me happy, to furnish my home, or even buy your home. We were talking about real estate, home ownership. When we buy a house, how much house should we buy?
Oh, the house that we can afford.
Wait a minute. The house you can afford? What do real estate professionals tell you?
Okay. They always tell you buy the biggest house you can.
Absolutely.
But even the house we can afford betrays it, because at some point, if you're successful, you can afford a much bigger house than you're living in. We should really buy the house we need.
Okay. That's such a novel idea, Matt, because we're told buy as much house as we can, as soon as we can.
Right.
Okay. I was told completely different. My first house, I actually bought 3 houses before I bought one that I actually lived in. Because we're told, what are we told?
Oh, get the house you're going to live in as soon as possible.
Yeah. And your house is your biggest investment. A house is only an investment if you don't live in it. And people will ask me, well, why would I buy a house if I didn't live in it? Well, okay, I bought my first house, never moved into it, rented it. Because I was living in a place with a couple other roommates, and my expenses were fairly low. So that house allowed me to buy another house. Never moved into it, rented it. Those are investments. Okay. When we buy a house and move into it, that's not an investment, because we can't sell it without changing our lives. We're going to have to find another one to live in. Are you with me?
Yes.
Okay. So when we're looking at buying a house and people say, buy the biggest house you can, okay, now we've got what? We've got debt. We've got to pay a mortgage. But we love that house. And now what are we going to do to the house?
Oh, we're going to fix it up. We're going to take care of it, baby.
Darn right. We're going to fill it with nice furniture. We're going to fill it with nice appliances. We're going to fill it with patio set. So the debt starts building, and we want it all right now because we want to have our friends over. So this is delayed discounting. We're going for the happiness today, but we're not looking at it 10, 15 years from now. Okay. We're not building any equity in terms of our investments. Yes, we might be building equity in the house we're living in, but what good's the equity? I have people say all the time, well, I'm sitting on so much equity in my home, but I raised my family here and I don't want to sell it. So this idea of delayed discounting, we're, again, going for what makes us happy today instead of what we're going to see down the line and for even more happiness down the road. So with the house, like I said, I didn't move into a house until my 4th house. I already had 3 houses being bought for me by other people, renters. And I was willing to put it down the road and say, I'm going to be happy. I'm going to have the house I want. It's going to be 10, 15, 20 years from now. So we look at it and say, where did that thought come from? And this, when we talk about build your legacy life and the five F's of life, friends is one of the biggest. So I was lucky early on. I had friends around me that encouraged me to make investments. And these friends talked to me about what an investment's going to be worth years or even decades down the road. And I mentioned one time earlier, my Uncle Bert in South Dakota telling me about investments and about how they pay off. And so I feel very lucky to have had friends around me. Unfortunately, not everyone has those people. They even have friends that take them where? Take them down a different path and encourage them to buy the biggest house possible. Encourage them to maybe remodel the house or put nice furniture in. Encourage them to park in the garage, what?
Oh, nice fancy car?
Darn right. Yeah, you've been working hard. You deserve it.
You deserve it.
You deserve
You've
it.
earned it.
Let's put $60,000 in the garage in the form of a car. The fastest depreciating item you can possibly buy, other than maybe an expensive restaurant. But anyway, that's another story. So we're encouraged by friends to either do things right or do things in a way that's going to be detrimental to us. So our friends and the group of people we run around with can either bring us up in terms of getting away from this delayed discounting, or are going to encourage us to do it more. And these are people that are hey, had a good week. Let's go out Friday night. Let's go take a weekend. Let's go, let's go on vacation together. Yeah, I really can't afford it. I've been trying to save a little money, but you've got friends that are encouraging, kind of egging you on, versus friends that say, you know what, you're right. You've been saving. I really like the way that you're doing that. It's really smart to put money away. I'm going to encourage you to stay home. So when we talk about building a legacy life and bringing in good friends, or having good friends and listening to good friends, that's so valuable in where they're going to take us. Are they going to take us in a direction that's going to be good for us 10, 15, 20 years from now? Or are they just good friends today? Make sense?
100%.
And, as we look at that, let's maybe get away from finance so much and just talk about friends. Because our friends are going to develop us, hold us to a certain standard. And are those standards what we want to develop, what we want to be known for, what we want to see down the road? Or are they what's going to make us happy today? So when we're talking about friends and this delayed discounting, we can have friends that bring us forward in terms of making better decisions, holding us to a higher standard. When we talk about let's be honest, or do we have friends that are just going to have us around for a good time today? And the quality of people we surround ourselves with is going to make that difference. Is it something where I have friends that are going to bring up my quality of life and my standards? We talked, you talked a little bit, Matt, you shared with me about your gym. And you went to a gym, you got introduced to it, and yet it wasn't really a place that you felt, you had good friends there?
I had met people that I liked, but I was not actually benefiting from them. I wasn't coming forward as a fighter. I wasn't coming forward as somebody who's really committed and trying to find the best, most beneficial spot for me, contributing to a community and getting back from the community. Yeah.
Absolutely. So you did what? You made a tough decision today.
So this whole weekend was dominated by this, because it was exactly what you're talking about. I kept thinking like, okay, well, I don't really want to address this right now, or like, how do I essentially just trying to figure out how I can avoid ripping the Band-Aid off. And so I finally sent out a text message to the gym, business organizer, and said, hey, you know what, I want to cancel my membership. And what did they do? Instantaneously, well, we can just put it on hold so you don't cancel, right? And then you can come back to delay. We can delay.
Kick the can down the road.
They wouldn't even cancel my membership today. She said, this is what we're going to do. We're going to put a stop on it right now. And in 30 days, if you still want to cancel, I'll get a hold of you again and you can cancel. And then you'll have to pay this closing fee. I've heard of an initiation fee. I've never heard of a de-initiation fee, right? So not only is it now delayed, but now I know that there's a $135 fee coming to just leave the gym. It's like, holy cow, could you make it any more difficult to be concise and decisive?
Well, and that's, it's astounding the way that marketing has happened today. And we can go back a little bit, and I'm not this old, but it used to be when you wanted to buy an appliance,
right?
Whatever, a stove, a refrigerator, a washer and dryer. You went down to the store and looked at the model, decided which one you wanted, and then you ordered it. And the store told you when it would be in. 6 weeks from now, 2 months from now, whatever. Okay? What do we do today? It has to be instant or we're not happy. We want it delivered now. Amazon has become the biggest or one of the biggest companies in the world, if not the biggest, by doing what?
Oh, same day delivered. Prime. We have Prime.
Prime. I am so important. And if I can't get it today, what are they going to do? They're going to charge us, oh, well, if you want it tomorrow, it's $24 extra. Well, the whole item only costs $70, but because we're used to right now, today, I'll pay that. Not me personally, sure. But a lot of people will make that decision and say, well, yeah, I'll pay the $24 shipping to have it tomorrow, because the value of having something in our hands because of delayed discounting, The value today is far greater even than tomorrow. And so when we look at buying things, Amazon has become this gigantic shipping magnet. And Jeff Bezos is a very smart dude. He saw this and, he started out selling books. There was no urgency to buy books. He found that readers would order a book and then sit and wait for it. But when he started branching into other things, this is where the marketing came in. And this is what we really want to talk about. And this is why we have friends that will bring this out. Let's talk about the reality of life right now, and that is delay discounting can cost us so much in terms of our expediency and our urgency. We have to have it right now.
Right.
So, this happens with Amazon and Prime. It also happens with car lots. I've got friends that own some pretty big car lots, and I say, why do you have so many cars? Well, when somebody decides to buy a car, they go down and, you probably have, I don't know, I kind of like white. I want a car that's four-wheel drive. I want a car with whatever. And you've got these parameters. Well, when you get to the car lot, you start looking at what's actually there. And what happens more often than not is, I want a car today. And the salesmen know this. And so they're going to put you in a car that has some of what you're looking for, but it's the car they have sitting there right now. So when we come away, instead of saying, I want this car, I want this, and I'm going to pay this price, we come away and they say, well, this car is the one we've got today. It's a little more than what you were planning on spending, and it doesn't have exactly, but you can drive away with it today. And so what do? We drive away with that car today because having something in our hands today is so much more valuable to us because we've been taught this by marketing, by our modern day lives of urgency, rather than saying, no, I want this, I'm going to wait for it. Right. And so it's become such a big part of our lives that whether it's our finances and getting us into trouble and debt, whether it's with friends and say, well, I want friends, I want to be happy today. So I know, being popular is really cool and I want to have lots of friends. So I'm not going to have the best friends because it takes time to find and build really good friendships. I'm going to have friends that make me happy today. And we're going to go out and we're going to do things that maybe aren't the greatest for me, but I'm going to have a big group of friends today.
Right.
So when we talk this delayed discount, we can take it all over the board, whether it interferes with our finances, whether it interferes with our friends and our relationships, whether it determines what car we buy. So where do we go from here? Why are we even talking about it? Why is it important to make this a point today? Because when we want to improve our lives and we want to drive forward, we have to stop and say, okay, what is going to put us forward 10, 15, 20 years from now versus let's quit looking at today. Because today we're going to discount things and we're going to accept less than what we really think we should get, whether it's in friendship, whether it's a car we buy, whether it's a house. We're going to buy way more than we should, or we're going to make deals so we can have happiness today. Why not turn it around? And we talked about, let's put up with it today so that we can have that, that utopia, that wonderful time in the future. And it's hard to describe for people that haven't done it before, but the way that we do it is we learn from other people. We have people around us. When I was in practice for 20 years, I went to a seminar, I went to a conference almost every month. 12 times a year, 20 years, I went to 240 conferences. I spent hundreds of thousands of dollars going to conferences. Yes, to learn things, but more important, to be around a group of people that had the same values that would push me forward and help me make better decisions and not fall into this delay discount lifestyle. And that's really where we're looking to change things, Matt. And what you've told me about your investments, you've learned it obviously from someone. You've had some mentors in your life. I've been very blessed. It's good to surround ourselves with these people. You know, when I told you we go to happy hour, and happy hour is not really about drinking, it's about getting together with friends. We hold each other to certain standards, and we make sure that the reasoning we have in making decisions is not, and again, this word delayed, or two words, delayed discounting, but it's good, solid thinking all the way through. So I guess in closing the idea, we look at where we're making decisions right now, why we're making decisions, what's driving those decisions, and are they good for us in the future, or are they good for us right now? Are we discounting the value down the road? So is it $20 today, or is it $50 a month from now? So many people would take the $20 today and say, I don't really care. I don't know what's going to happen a month from now. I want the money right now. And we've had society, we've had marketers, we've had commercials on TV, all these different things where we've been encouraged to do those short-term thought process, those short-term decision-making criteria versus looking at what's going to happen down the road. Look at our country right now. Look at where we are. $35 trillion in debt, where we've been spending money we don't have. And what do we do as a population? We do the same thing. We make decisions short-term today versus what could be down the road. So the whole idea is, let's talk to people, let's get around people that encourage us, and let's get away from delay discounting and make good decisions that are sustainable, that are going to put us in a position down the road. So like you, having multiple investment properties, having good income stream, having sustainable practices in our lives. Make sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, sir.